What is the creepiest glitch in the Matrix you've experienced? Redditor 1. I had an Android phone which had a Google Cards feature option that could notify you like 15 minutes to home if you were out. I thought this feature was annoying and useless, so I kept the feature off. After several months of no cards notifications, one night I'm at home and a card pops up saying 35 minutes to home, pinning me at a random intersection on the other side of town. Let's call it First Street and Story. I think, that's weird. I'm not even way over there. I don't even know where that is. I've never been to that area. I go to my card setting to turn it back off, but it's already turned off. That's weird. Next night, exact same thing happens. 35 minutes to home from First Street and Story. What the? Still definitely not over there. Check cards feature and the notifications are still turned off, so no idea why I'm getting a notification. Few days later, a friend and I are out running errands and he misses his intended exit, so he takes the next one. Once on the streets, I ask, where are we? I've never been over here. Suddenly a car to our right tries to turn left and crashes right into us. Messed up the wheel to be unable to turn, so he pulled forward to the curb to call a tow truck. We had our kids in the car, so I call my sister to pick us all up. When my sister asks me for the location, I look up at the street signs, First Street and Story. Redditor 2, I was 11 or 12, early 70s. Dad came home one Friday and announced we were going to Kings Island, a fairly new amusement park, tomorrow. I begged him to let me invite my friend Chris to come along. He said okay, as long as Chris could pay his own way. Great. Off to the phone I went. Pick it up, no dial tone. Hello? Oh my God, is that you, Chris? I was just calling you. What's up? I was calling to ask if you'd like to come to Kings Island tomorrow, but you have to pay your own way. No phone ever rang. We both called each other at the same time, to ask the exact same thing. Redditor 3, was going down the stairs and went past my brother who was coming up the stairs, said hi and he sort of mumbled back. Got downstairs and walked through to the kitchen, only to find him standing there. WTF. Redditor 4, this is late and pretty stupid, but why not? I was once showering and after about 10 minutes in the shower I hear something ping and hit the floor. I looked down and saw a penny. I was pretty perplexed, as you can imagine, but figured whatever, I'll keep it, as I imagined it could be good luck. I kept the penny in my wallet for a few years in a zip side pouch. I never really told anyone because it was kind of pointless to talk a random penny I was superstitious about. So a few years later, while at a music festival, a girl in our tent woke up to a penny in her butt crack. We all laughed it off as having a wild night. However, I remembered the penny I had, and when I looked in the zipped pouch I was shocked to find it was gone. I told my friends and they didn't believe me. I think they threw that penny away too. TLDR teleporting as penny. Redditor 5, had a dream of some kid that I had never seen before dancing at a busy party. He was wearing a blue shirt, black pants, had Bieber hair, and there was a purple strobe light on the wall behind him. Wake up, think to myself, what an odd dream, and carry on with my life. Several years later I was at my cousin's wedding reception, chillin' and hanging out with a different cousin. Music comes on and we start jumping up and down, and then I realized that I was reliving the dream. Same clothes, same hair, same purple lighting in the background. Redditor 6, not sure if anyone will believe me or not, but duck it, here goes. When I was in high school my friend Phil killed himself. I never really knew the specifics, all I know is that he shot himself at one of the local parks. Fast forward 6 years or so and I'm asleep in bed next to my ex-wife. I'm having a fairly normal dream. I was at a store doing something or another, I can't really remember the specifics of the beginning of the dream. What I do remember is running into Phil in the store. When I saw him everything got super weird. He actually looked like Phil, not like in most dreams where people will be certain people but not look like them. He actually looked like Phil. He looked at me and smiled and said, "Hey man." At the moment the dream got crystal clear. I asked him if it was really him and he said it was. He told me we were gonna hang out for a bit, and after that the dream got super lucid. He showed me how to make stuff and generally we just ducked around doing dream things. Suddenly I realized that my dream was coming to an end. I turned to him and asked him if I was about to wake up. He said yes and said he had fun coming to hang out with me for a bit. I don't know why, but I asked, so why'd you do it, man? Why'd you kill yourself? The way he answered chilled me to my core, not necessarily what he said, just how he said it. He replied, my girlfriend cheated on me, man. He said it like it was a question he'd answered before. Like when someone asks you what your first job was, you've responded with the exact same sentence so many times that it just falls off of your tongue effortlessly. Except I had known his girlfriend and they were the kind of couple that everyone admired. I said, Sophie? Sophie cheated on you? His eyes lit up like he realized he was talking to someone that actually knew him in life. He said, yeah man, Sophie cheated on me. We gave each other a hug and he wished me well. I woke up and felt super strange. It was somewhere around 2 or 3 in the morning. I closed my eyes and thought, Phil, if that was really you, I need you to give me a sign. No sooner than when the thought finished, my phone started ringing. It came across as an unknown number and only rang twice. I knew I wasn't dreaming anymore because my ex-wife woke up and sleepily asked me who was trying to call me so late. To this day, when I think about that story, I get chills. Redditor 7, this one is more silly than creepy, but once when I went with my grandmother to her friend's house, I was on the porch by myself with the grandmother's friend's cat, and the cat looked me right in the eyes and said the word meow. It didn't sound like a cat meowing at all. It sounded very convincingly like a human carefully enunciating the word meow, 2 syllables, in their most thoroughly unconvincing cat voice. Like someone intentionally doing a very poor impression of a cat, as a joke. But it was perfectly in time with the movement of the cat's mouth and there was no one else around, so it had to have been the cat saying it. TL, doctor, met a cat that could talk, but the only word it knew was meow. Redditor 8, I was getting on an airplane and a ginger yelled out for some dude Sebastian at a different gate. When I landed, a different ginger called out for a different Sebastian. Redditor 9, I was walking my dog. On his leash there is a little plastic attachment that holds his poop bags. I dropped the leash onto the ground. I heard the plastic hit the ground. But it turns out it ended up back in my hand. Imagine dropping something. Hearing and seeing it drop. Then somehow it's in your hand. All under a couple seconds. Redditor 10, I took a hard news soft news journalism class in college where one of the assignments was to write an obituary for one of my grandparents. The professor told us to write it on a deceased grandparent, but if all of your grandparents were still alive we had to choose one. In my case, all of my grandparents were alive. I procrastinated the assignment until the night before it was due because it seemed like a dumb assignment. Scramming for an easy grandparent to write about, I gave my mom a call and asked her for some basic biographical information about my maternal grandfather, who was still alive. As we were talking about my grandpa's career, my mom couldn't recall the name of one of the companies he worked at. She lectured me about waiting until the last minute to write the assignment because it was late 10:30 p.m. my grandpa's time. However, she said she would give him a call to see if he was still awake and be able to answer that question once my assignment was due the following morning. When my mom called my grandma answered the phone in a panic. My grandma frantically explained that the paramedics had just arrived and were performing CPR on my grandpa because he had stopped breathing and passed out. My mom was able to stay on the phone with my grandma until they took my grandpa to the hospital, where he was declared dead. In the time my mom and I had been talking on the phone about my grandpa's obituary, he was dying out of the blue, at that. He had been otherwise healthy considering his age. We ended up using the obituary I wrote for that writing assignment as his actual obituary. Still freaks me out when I think about the timing. Edit. Context. Redditor 11, I swear to God my mom told me my cousin died from an overdose a year before he actually did. So when she told me and I replied, yeah, from an overdose, right? She was shocked that I already knew. I thought she was somehow messing with me until she showed me his death date. I still can't really explain that one. Edit. A lot of people are mentioning that he could have overdosed before and survived, making it that I assumed he died the first time. The weird thing is that I barely knew anything about this cousin. My mom's extended side is very big with 22 first cousins, 40 plus second cousins, etc. So there's a lot of cousins I've never met personally, and I specifically only remember being told about his drug addiction in context of it contributing to his death, since my family speculates it was intentional and not accidental. Basically, I never really knew much about him while he was alive. So while it's very plausible I could have heard about him overdosing beforehand, the way I remember it is very different. Memory is a fickle thing though, so who knows. Redditor 12, I'm a security guard at a distribution warehouse. Sometimes I have to work graveyard shift. During this time the only people on the premises is me, and a rare truck driver bringing in a late load. Our guard shack is concrete, with sliding glass doors on the sides, no locks, and big windows in front and back. Sometimes when I'm the only person on the premises, I'll see a reflection of someone walking past the shack. Every inch of this shack, and the yard, is covered by security cameras. No one has shown up on the footage when I see these reflections. Redditor 13, when I was about 15 I was eating some cereal and accidentally dropped my spoon into the kitchen floor. I watched the spoon fall. As it hit the floor, it just vanished into thin air. I was shocked. I thought surely my eyes were playing tricks on me. It must have just bounced away and gone out of sight or something. I spent 30 minutes searching the kitchen for that spoon. I was honestly kind of freaked out. I tried to think of every possible place it could have gone. There weren't many places it could have ended up. I never found it. Edit, fix typo. Redditor 14, I have dreamed of 2 or 3 situations before they actually happen exactly as in my dreams. It can't be a déjà vu because I remember dreaming about it. It wasn't just a feeling of familiarity. Redditor 15, wasn't all that weird I guess, but still. When I was a kid there was this house right before the entrance to my subdivision that was in this super deep valley. I remember calling it the house in the hole and thinking about how much it must have sucked when it rained, and how great of a sledding hill the sides would make. Then one day we were passing it, and there was no valley, it was at the same level as the road. I asked my mom what happened to the hole and she had no idea what I was talking about. To this day I no longer live there, I always check when I drive past. Edit, they'll post a Google Maps pic in the morning. Edit 2, as promised. Redditor 16, a few nights back I was wide awake in the guest bed at my place and heard quiet footsteps and then my wife say hey gently at the door. It seemed weird, so I got up to see what she wanted and she was fast asleep in bed. Before you ask, I was in a separate bed as I have a cold and have been snoring really loudly. Redditor 17, not especially creepy, but it did used to unnerve me when I was young. When I was little I used to have a Thomas the Tank Engine book with fold-out parts and flaps. There was this one part which was like a shed and you could lift a flap to see inside it. Inside was all the usual gardening shed paraphernalia, but there was also a black cat sat in there. Here's the glitch though, I swear the cat wasn't always there. I used to love that book, but every time I read it I would get to that page and guess whether the cat would be there or not. Not a clue what that was all about really, but it creeped a young me out. Redditor 18, a couple of weeks ago my dog Coda came into my room and started to try to jump on my bed. Which she was successful of doing after a couple of tries and I gave her a little nudge to get off my bed. She jumped down and left. Then I heard my phone downstairs so I walked down and get a call from my grandma who said she made some food. So I said okay, I will stop by and come eat. I get my jacket on and get ready to leave. I get my keys and grab my dog's leash to take her. We got in the car and drove for about 10 minutes then arrived. I was eating and talking to my grandma and things. But when I was getting ready to leave I couldn't find Coda. I searched everywhere in the backyard and the front, outside, nowhere to be found. After a good hour of searching my grandma's neighborhood it started to get dark. It was about 9:30ish, so I decided to come back and check. The next day I left and went to sleep. The next morning I woke up because I heard something downstairs. To my surprise it was my dog, and at that point I thought, wait, what? Later I came back to my grandma's to tell her I found my dog. As soon as I arrived I told. After I told her about how Coda was home I thought to myself, did I even bring her? I asked my grandma and she said yes I did because I left the leash in her living room. I then asked my grandma to watch her footage on her cameras from last night and there was no footage of the Coda in the street or leaving the front door. But there was footage of her entering the house with me. I went home later. Coda was still there. Until this day I still don't know what happened. Redditor 19. In college I delivered pizzas to make money. I had a delivery that should have taken about 20 minutes. When I returned to the store, the manager asked me what had taken so long. I asked him what he meant and he pointed to the computer showing I had been gone for an hour and 7 minutes. I don't remember delivering the pizza, only turning into the store when I was returning. Before anyone suggests aliens, no, my AUS was not sore. I also don't drink or use drugs. 20 years later I still have no idea what happened. Redditor 20. I have several times had multi-plane deja vu, as I like to call it. Basically, I'd have a deja vu moment about something, not too odd. But then later I'd have the same exact deja vu moment again. And it's always super specific things, too. Redditor 21. I dropped a quarter and it just disappeared. I never heard it hit the ground. I spent a good 10 minutes looking for it under furniture and the hem of my pants and all around. It just literally disappeared. Redditor 22. Poured a freshly boiled water to a glass. Walked over to check my email on the phone for less than 1 minute, am very sure because the same song is still playing. Walked back, the glass of water is room temperature. I might just have had a stroke. Never checked. Redditor 23. I was sitting on my porch and had my debit card on the table in front of me. I went inside to get something to drink. Patio furniture inside and a 6 feet privacy fence around the yard. I also lived alone. Went back outside and it was just gone. I searched everywhere, inside and out, but couldn't find it. Nothing was withdrawn from my account, so 2 days later I canceled it and requested a new one. 2 weeks later I went out to sit on the porch. I did this every day and the old card was sitting right there on the table. It just fucking appeared. There was nothing else on the table. It just was gone. And then it wasn't. Edit. Got a few replies, so let me clarify. I lived alone. The porch was screened. I literally took off all the cushions on the porch, destroyed my house. The table was your typical glass patio table and I sat out there every freaking day and there wasn't anything on it. Then, 2 weeks later it was just sitting there on the table. Nothing was withdrawn from my account. I genuinely have no explanation. Redditor 24. Not long after 9/11, on a Friday, I got up to go to class and had one of those mornings. Broke a glass getting something to drink, tripped over something going to my car, was late to class due to a wreck on the way there. Not me, thankfully. While at school we heard about a plane crashing. Something about the wings blowing off. Went to work, went home. The next morning my roommate wakes me asking if I'm skipping class today. After he convinces me it is still Friday, I get up and go to class, after noticing the glass I broke is not broke. On the way I pass the same wreck in the same spot. All day I wait to hear about the plane, but it never happens. Ends up kinda a normal day. The next day they arrest the shoe bomber and I have wondered if someone rewound that day to stop him and somehow I didn't reset with it. Redditor 25. So, before my husband and I were married we lived separately. He would come over and spend time then leave later at night like 11 or 12. He left one night out my front door, which has 3 locks: a lock on the knob, a deadbolt, and what I call a hotel lock. It's a lock that you flip the long piece over onto a short peg and then the door can only be open a few inches. Well, he left and used his key to lock the knob and deadbolt, but I thought to myself I have to go lock the hotel lock. I come down and it's locked already. Absolutely no way he could have locked it from outside. Redditor 26, 10 years old, in grandma's front yard. She keeps her yard immaculate, award-worthy. It's dusk, family get together. Mom says toss me the car keys, so I do. My throw is short by finger lengths. I assume they landed in the short grass, but we never found them. That was 30 years ago. The yard has been mowed hundreds of times. The house is still in the family, still well taken care of. No keys, ever. Redditor 27. In my childhood, kindergarten in USSR, I distinctly remember the sky going dark for some time, teacher rushing us all inside. Then back bright again unknown time later. My parents denied there was solar eclipse that day. I couldn't find any record of one either, though should check again. I distinctly remember that. Redditor 28. I've wrote about this before. It's one of the weirdest things I've experienced. When my now ex-boyfriend had just gotten together, I went out and bought him some new shirts. We had just fallen in love and I saw a shirt that said "Love Life" on it in big red bold letters. The shirt was all white with only the words on the front. It was a lil inside joke between us, I guess, because we would use that phrase to describe our life and named our business Love Life. He really loved it and wore it a lot before it sat in the closet for a couple years. Well, a couple years go by and let's just say Love Life was a horrible definition of our relationship. He was horrible. Anyways, I'm cleaning out the closets, getting rid of old clothes and Therese the shirt. I pull it out and the shirt now reads "Low Life" the exact same way it looked before, but it says "Low Life." I immediately ask him if he remembers the shirt and what it said, and he tells me "Love Life." Well, as soon as I show him the shirt, he flips out the same way I did. Both of us know that the shirt never said "Low Life." Why would I buy anyone a shirt that said that, let alone my boyfriend? It's like I flipped dimensions into the reality where my ex-BF was a complete abusive douche and it showed up in the shirt. Edit: for people curious, I found something similar but not the exact shirt. It looked kinda like this: life red white model 2.jpg mgrefurl equals http%3a%2f%2f www.customwork.de%2f docet equals oodky6urw8zw0m equals hixtvo7m%3a vet equals 1w equals 1000 hours equals 1000 hl equals n a source equals sh%2fx%2fim, but the letters were bolder, more impact style font, and there was nothing below it or anything else on the shirt. Redditor 29, a few months before my first car accident I dreamed about it happening. Everything from the sounds to the placement and the smell was the same. Thing is, the girl driving tried to get me to find a different ride because she didn't want to do any extra driving that day, and after the crash I told her about my dream and she said she had the same one the night before and that's why she didn't want to drive. Freaky shit, dude. Redditor 30, my partner and I have the same vivid memory of something happening that never happened. We are both convinced that our friend was with us at another friend's wedding and he fixed the sound system during the reception. Except the friend we remember fixing the sound system was not at the wedding and does not even know the person who was having the wedding. But we both distinctly remember our friend not only being there, but actually saving the day. We sometimes catch ourselves talking about it and once praised our friend for saving that wedding and he was like, "What? Who's ex? I wasn't even there." Redditor 31, was playing Minecraft with friends over Skype on my desktop PC when I disconnected from Minecraft. I was still chatting with everyone on Skype when I checked my browser. That also wasn't functioning. So I got up and decided to check the router, announcing to everyone I was doing so. I checked it and it was fine. So still unable to connect, I asked the group, "What should I do?" And someone replied, "Check, it's actually plugged," and I stood up while saying, "Well, how am I still talking to you then?" Assuming it was so bug or partial disconnect. I at this point saw my Ethernet cable unplugged and about 2 centimeters away from the back of my machine. I announced this over Skype to everyone and as soon as I did the call dropped. This freaked me out for years until I saw a demo of someone scanning a VGA cable from across the room and managing to get an approximation of the picture. I guess I believe that VoIP part of the connection was able to make the jump across the cm or so gap or something. But I didn't move anything at any point and my partner at the time witnessed it as well, luckily, or I'd have thought I was mad. Before anyone say it, I didn't have a Wi-Fi option and still don't. My motherboard 100% doesn't have Wi-Fi and I definitely didn't have a card for it separately either. I had even theorized at the time it was some kind of surveillance installed covertly on my computer that routed my internet via a different medium. But either way it freaked me out. We'll never know for sure. Redditor 32, I was going to lunch with 2 coworkers. We were discussing another coworker. One CW made an assessment of the CW we were discussing and I agreed with him. He looked at me and said he didn't say that, he was thinking it. CW2 agreed he didn't say it. Redditor 33, I once kicked the air. I was walking, my foot hit something as it was at its highest point in the air and I stumbled over it. There was nothing there. Redditor 34, I swear I once repeated a day when I was 10 edit. I was not expecting this to blow up while I was sleeping. I don't remember much since it was so long ago, but I do remember noticing that it was the same date as what I thought was yesterday. Besides this, nothing pops into my mind about it. Redditor 35. I was reading on my laptop in my bedroom, and suddenly I hear my best friend calling my name, and it sounded like she was talking through the phone. I look around for my phone, thinking she has called, and somehow one of my siblings has answered and has hid the phone somewhere to prank me. No phone around, nor siblings, and meanwhile my bestie is still talking. Answer me, why aren't you talking? And then it goes silent. I get really nervous, start crying and asking my siblings if they have something to do with this, or am I going crazy and hearing voices? They all try to console me. Later, I find my phone downstairs. The next day I tell my friends about it, and bestie says that she did in fact call me last night, and I did answer, and she kept calling my name for a couple of minutes thinking I was playing with her, until she eventually hung up. To this day I don't understand how the phone just answered the call on its own and how I was able to hear my friend from upstairs. Redditor 36. When I was little I had a wooden doll crib that rocked that was maybe about 1.5 feet long. I kept it on the other side of my room from where my bed was. I had one of those dreams where you feel like you're falling and it wakes you up. When I woke up, the crib was sitting on top of me on my chest and abdomen. Edit. I feel like this is an important detail. I sat straight up when I woke up from the dream and the crib fell off of me onto the floor and made a really loud noise. Some people are suggesting sleep paralysis, but I've never experienced sleep paralysis before or after, and if it had been, I don't think I would remember the crib falling onto the floor. Redditor 37. One time in the middle of the night, I heard somebody scream my name. They just suddenly screamed Charles at the top of their lungs. Nobody was there, and my parents were asleep. Later that same month, my dad was making coffee, and heard me whisper in his ear, "Daddy," turned, and nobody was there. I have zero recollection of doing this. I have sleep paralysis a lot, which may explain the first one, but I have no idea how my dad heard me. I don't believe in ghosts, but this does creep me out. Redditor 38. There was one morning before school when I randomly thought, I haven't heard Hey Ya in a long time. It was a good song though. Just a meaningless whatever while brushing my teeth. I arrive at school and all of my friends have Hey Ya stuck in their heads. They were humming it all day, and when I asked them about it they said they thought about it that morning. None of us had heard the song recently enough to all be reminded about it. Redditor 39. When I was attending college, a friend and myself were walking back to our dorm late one night. I attended a school with a primarily white population. As we were getting within about a half mile of our dorm, we were laughing about some joke when we noticed a black man in torn clothing running at us full speed. We both slowed our pace to a crawl as he kept coming at us, unaware what was going to happen. The man got closer and closer, and when he passed under a street light we noticed a few things that were odd. He was sprinting away from something and holding a rather large bowl of fruit. He sprinted past us without even regarding our existence, and when we looked back to where he had come from, we noticed what appeared to be a bear cub sprinting in our direction. Both my friend and I began taking steps backward slowly, and just as we were about to start following the man in the same panicked manner, the animal took a beeline for a curb toward what appeared to be a sewer drain. The closer it got to the drain, the smaller this animal appeared, until it was the size of a small mouse, and it went straight into the drain, out of sight. The closer we got to the drain, it seemed to fade from view. When we were standing right next to the curb, it became clear there was no drain whatsoever. We proceeded to walk back in silence to the dorms. Still no clue what happened that night, but I remember several things during my time there that were unexplainable. Redditor 40. Going through my grandma's pictures after she died. We found a picture of my husband's mom and my grandma. This couldn't possibly be his mom, but it looked just like her. They also shared the same first and last name. No, we aren't related. We've had our DNA analyzed.